some of it financial, some of it just tapping out, and some of it just getting to the end of my rope with my golf and frustrated. So as I just took a year away from golf and decided I was going to try to get back in, and once I got back in, I got back in as a coach, and so I had to put on a different hat. So instead of the game always being about me and my performance, it became about everybody else's performance. So I'd had a great fortune being able to kind of spend some time around a lot of different people, had some good coaching, and got myself to a point where the next thing that I needed to start kind of doing was being able to kind of go back out and start expanding my boundaries, learning more about kind of what I was doing, and trying to kind of figure out how to become a better deliverer of information, help people play better golf. So that I started kind of looking at a lot of different things. I looked at trying to organize my thoughts around the geometry that we were dealing with in golf. I was trying to organize myself around the physics involved, what was the physiology that was involved in terms of the physicality that was involved, nutrition, just all the different things that were kind of coming up. And at that point in time, there really wasn't a lot of information around. As we started kind of moving further and further down the road, more money came to golf, the Olympics kind of got involved, and all of a sudden we had access to smart people like Mike and some of the biomechanics to kind of start bringing us some real science into golf. It was no longer some sort of somebody's idea or interpretation of what was happening, but we all actually started getting some facts about what was happening. And so as we started kind of looking at that, we started trying to figure out, okay, what tools are available to help us become better at assessing and being able to kind of monitor training and then reassess as we kind of went forward. There's been several things that have kind of come to golf. The TrackMan people have been a big they've added a lot to the discussion. We've also started really kind of moving from time back when I first started playing. It was all done by eye and sound, and there wasn't really any real technology involved. One of the big breakthroughs we saw during my time as a player was a video camera. The first time I saw a video camera, saw my son, I almost had a stroke. I was like, oh my gosh, is that really me? So, but we began to use that actively as a tool to try to provide feedback for the players. And more recently, we've actually come to the point where we can actually capture motion. Believe it or not, we can actually capture motion and analyze it. All the motion capture devices. So we have things like all the biomech systems. My friend Mark Bull's here from England. He's one of the top biomechanics from England. Michael Bentley's done it with K-Best. He's also now kind of moved to some of the stuff that we're seeing with the putting and some of the short game stuff. And so I think that we're at a point where we start having enough technology to actually help and accurately assess players. It's the first time in history that we've actually been able to do it. So I think us kind of moving towards kind of more of an Olympic type approach where we do have good sports scientists involved. There's enough money in the game now where we actually have people where it's lucrative for people like Michael to be involved. So all of a sudden now we're in a situation where we do have access to good, accurate information. So the next question is, what is going to happen with that information? How is the information going to be used? I think the big things you see with information is, in an attempt to try to make sense of the chaos of the information, a lot of times we start with modeling. We try to develop models that we think are appropriate to try to understand or explain what we're actually kind of doing, what we're seeing. And the one thing that I think I've learned as I've tried to take some of this stuff on is that the best use that I've found of the biomechanical and the biofeedback stuff is to actually try to identify exactly what's not necessary from a modeling perspective, but try to identify what the athlete or the person that we're dealing with, identify their pattern. And from there, start figuring out, okay, what can I do to make this pattern improve, to try to improve the pattern. So there's a difference between change and improvement. I think Mark Bull, I would kind of pass that on to him as his kind of a contribution to my mindset. But I think what we're looking for is improvement in golf. And there's a lot of things that we've tossed in golf to try to improve. We've tossed TrackMan, we've tossed physicality, we've tossed nutrition, we've tossed everything we can at it. And the truth of the matter is, very little things actually make players get better. And I'll speak to that in a minute. But I do think there is a massive value in being able to have tools to help us quantify and measure and remeasure and guide the kind of the evolution of the movement. Having tools available to that is a massive advantage. The one thing I would say, if you're going to try to take some of this stuff on, is you definitely need to understand the tool first, because there's a lot of things that happen where people get a hold of a tool, they don't really know what they're doing, they put it on their website, I've got X piece of technology, they're using it, but they haven't trained themselves to be able to kind of use it. So take the time if you're going to kind of get into a biofeedback or some sort of motion capture system. Make sure that you're taking time to understand the tool, understand its applications, and then kind of bring it into your craft. Michael also asked me to kind of speak a little bit about some of the work we're doing with some of the high performance players, and I want to kind of speak a little bit about that. I originally kind of took on some of those things as I had a whole series of models that I used to coach players for a long time, putting models, and then the chipping model about things I wanted to see, and certain things I wanted to see in pitching and bunker play and full swing, and I had these things in my mind that I thought that I liked. And the problem is that as much as I tried to kind of steer people towards it, I would see people actually doing what I wanted them to do and not actually lowering their score, which became frustrating for the players, and I got fired from several jobs for it. But in the process of all that, the pain of being fired from one of those jobs, you actually have to sit down and think about what you're doing for a second. And so I actually started sitting back and thinking, okay, what can I actually do that's going to impact these people's ability to perform? So through my good fortune, some of my connections and networks around the world, I ran into a statistician that helped me understand very specifically what are the things that you have to do to lower score. Right? And it's not what you think. It's not the new driver, the new Callaway driver, which is a good product, by the way. It's not the TrackMan, which is a wonderful product. It's not the newest golf ball that you can find over here. It's actually understanding how the game is played and being able to kind of focus specifically on impacting those elements. For example, there's three things that I'll pass on, and I always try to kind of pass on my best stuff to any people I speak to. I'm not holding back. I'm going to give you the stuff I'm working on today. Come back next week, a year from now, you'll probably hear me say something different. But my focus today is on trying to impact three things for the golfers. Second shot proximity. How close is that second shot to the hole? That impacts score. The second thing is how well do they operate inside 20 yards of the hole? Off the fairway, out of the rough, and out of the bunker. And the third thing is how well do they putt inside 15 feet? If you can actually kind of start sitting down with those players and figuring out how you're going to, how do they do those three things, you can actually lower their score. Second shot proximity is affected by position off the tee, so they have to be able to drive the ball in the fairway. Here's some interesting math that you may or may not know. Some of the stuff that we see in terms of the shots gained would suggest that the further you hit it off the tee, the closer your second shot's going to be. And that's all good and fine until the ball goes into the rough. Once the ball goes into the rough, the proximity doubles. So now all of a sudden you've got let's say a player who has the capacity to hit the ball within 15 feet of the hole from 100 yards, their proximity hole out of the rough is going to be 30 feet. So their ability to score from there is going to be much less than they would be from that original position. So we're talking about a 60-yard window. So their ability to score is 30%, there's 50% better, 30 yards behind their maximum distance as long as the ball's in the fairway. Now, when I heard that, I almost had a stroke. Because I'm like, wait a minute, you got to hit it as far as you can. You're going to have, it doesn't matter how far you go to your position, you're always going to get it closer. But the math doesn't support that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the players that play well and drive that second shot proximity are very, very good inside 150 yards, which means they practice a lot in that area. They're not always practicing with their driver and their three-wood. I mean, they're practicing those clubs get in play. They spend a lot of time from 150 yards into the target. They also have the ability, basic ability, to control their golf ball when they hit it. They can control height and curves. So if you want to help people improve their second shot proximity, those are the things you need to be focusing on. And how you do that, we're all coaches. We all have to kind of figure that out. Is it a technique issue? Is it a mindset issue? Is it what has to happen to drive that? Inside 20 yards, they've got to be able to make good contact and control their ball off the turf, out of the rough, and out of the bunker. Right? All three environments. We play golf in those environments. The players have to be able to move the ball out of that environment and controlled inside 20 yards. On the green, you also start kind of looking at, we all understand that distance putting is important for 3-putt avoidance, but inside 15 feet is where you really kind of drive you drive par putts, you drive birdie putts, you drive, saving some sort of, you're saving a shot where you have the opportunity to save shots. So if you really want to help start kind of looking at the driving performance with the players, whether they're a club player or kind of elite tour player, if you can look at those 3 areas: second shot proximity, the ability to operate inside 20 yards of the hole, of the green, and operating inside 15 feet on the green, those things will actually impact your score. So while you're, along with your technology and all the things you're trying to do, don't overlook the idea that each one of these people that are coming to you, the population of one. You have to take time to get to know them. You have to understand their movement patterns, and also understand their ability. They may already be good at those things, so you have to be able to make sure you test accurately and don't jump to some sort of conclusion quickly until you've had a chance to watch them. Not only watch them and listen to them technically, but also take them out and see if they can actually do these things. I've actually been fooled a couple times about people that look like they shouldn't be able to do things. They can do things very, very well. It's called competence. And competence in my world is more important than technical excellence. I want somebody that's competent at moving the ball from A to B. So as I start kind of thinking about it in my coaching, that's the philosophy that I'm taking to it. All the tools that I have, the stuff that we get to use in terms of the technology, only supports my goal of trying to accomplish that, trying to make people play better golf. And everybody's different. I start every one of my sessions with a blank sheet of paper on purpose. I could generate a bunch of forms so I can tick the boxes, because that's a lot easier. But I start every single session with a blank sheet of paper to remind myself that this person, I need to come in with a blank mind and not have any assumptions about what I'm getting ready to kind of start, and I start my process right. As far as specific questions, I'm actually tired of listening to myself talk. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like me to kind of, any comments or anything like that? Michael, you got anything you want to run by me? Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys, your time and attention, and I'll be sticking around a few minutes here if anybody has any comments or wants to kind of carry on. But thank you, Michael, for letting me have a few minutes on your stage, and I really do appreciate all of his efforts and the contributions that Mike and his company are making. He's actually working with one of our kids on tour, and it's a little bit of a slow process just based on the culture this particular athlete has, but I'm confident that over time we're going to be able to kind of get this thing kind of moving forward. And he's been, as far as contributions in our sport, very few people have made the contribution that Michael Bennett makes, so I need to personally thank you for that. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.